211. Hope you're all doing well and staying safe. Over the semester we spent quite a bit of time discussing camera position and different types of shots, but something we didn't get to was discussing actual camera moves and some of the symbols for camera moves and some of the most common camera moves. Storyboarder, the software, doesn't have a moving camera option where you can actual capture video clips of moving cameras. Storyboarder Pro does. That's part of the Toon Boom suite, but I don't think that's critical to be able to render camera moves. You understand camera position and camera moves from your work in Maya. However, I do think it's good to understand how we can designate or indicate camera moves within these storyboards. I'm still of the belief that storyboards are primarily static, and so moving cameras isn't critical. However, some storyboards do cross the line into previs, and it really depends on the project that you're working on and what the director or art director is asking for. So let's just spend a couple minutes talking about really seven primary camera moves, fairly universal in their language. And so the first one is the dolly. Now the dolly is where the camera itself is moving back or forth, either straight away from where the lens is pointing, or straight ahead from where the lens is pointing. So that's a little bit different than the zoom, or turning to a wide angle where the camera position stays still and it's the lens that opens up. So as we zoom in to about a 216 millimeter lens, or we can come all the way down to something around 20. Okay, that's different than the dolly because the camera position hasn't moved. Okay, that's important to remember that. You'll get different effects depending on whether you're using a zoom or a dolly or in combination. And like so many things, it's hard to, we do have different symbols for designating the different camera moves, but often you will find them used in conjunction. So you would perhaps get a dolly and a zoom at the same time. And we can take that dolly to the extreme, where we can move the camera right through an object and into another part of the scene. Okay, so that's dolly and zoom. And remember, when we talk about zoom, we can zoom in or out. When we're moving the camera straight up or straight down, we typically refer to that as pedestal. Okay, like you're putting it up on a pedestal or lowering the pedestal. Now it's pretty limited if you don't throw in any sort of tilt. So again, that would be that would be moves that are used in combination. Okay, so dolly, straight forward, straight back. Zoom in and out is changing the actual lens. Pedestal is straight up or straight down. Now truck is where we move side to side. Again, the camera isn't swiveling. It would be on tracks or be on a vehicle or a trailer, and just move in a straight line across the scene. Again, you may have a situation where the scene calls for a truck, but also a little bit of a pan, and that's what we'll talk about next. The pan is where the camera position, the feet of the camera, for lack of a better word, are still, but the camera pivots side to side. So it's as if we're the viewer and we're just turning our head side to side. We're not moving our body. Okay, and very closely related to the pan is the tilt. Again, it's kind of if you are staying in the same position but moving your head up or down. So as I mentioned earlier, if we were to take a pedestal move, we would only want to go so high before we also added in a tilt, so that we could we could keep our subject in the shot. And then the last move that that I want to discuss, and I would ask that if you use it, that you use it with some discretion, and that's a roll. And that's where, again, the feet are staying still, but we're moving off of level, and we can get that Dutch angle. You could combine that with a bit of a dolly. So if you were dollying and rolling at the same time, that could be kind of interesting. Okay, and that's essentially it. So we've got dolly, straight back, straight forward. We've got zoom, changing the lens to zoom in or zoom out. We've got pedestal up, pedestal down, truck side to side, pan, tilt, and every superhero movie ever, the roll, or stormy seas. Alright, that's pretty much it. So what we'll do next is we'll go through the camera moves one at a time and discuss some different ways we can designate that directly onto the storyboard. Hey goons, let's run through quickly some of the common symbols that are used to designate camera moves on static storyboards. For dolly, you want to indicate with some sort of perspective where the camera is heading, either back or forward, and try to imagine that the camera would follow along on that arrow. So give it some dimensionality. Don't just leave it flat. For zoom, lots of you have used this. Think about your initial frame and then the finished frame, and draw arrows either in or out if you're starting close and pulling wider. Then the arrows would go the opposite way. Pedestal, flat arrow, straight up or straight down. Same thing with truck, a flat arrow moving either right or left. The pan, again, you want to give that arrow some dimensionality, and are we panning back and forth, or just to the right, or just to the left? Same with the tilt, tilting up, tilting down. And the roll, a flat arrow, but a flat curved arrow to let us know that we're rolling from side to side. And remember, if you're using red arrows for camera, then you want to use white arrows for any characters or any objects that are actually moving into the frame. So we can tell by this example that the character on the far right is running into the frame because of the arrow. He's not moonwalking back out of the frame. And that's it.